Hey, welcome back to the infamous podcast. This is Brian.
This is Darryl.
And I can see your ugly face.
Being elite. Be elite.
That's right. I'm wearing my elite shirt. So, yeah, we're at some point, I think we're end up switching to just an AEW podcast. So, I got to get you watching it more, more regularly.
Well, I watch all of them. Since
no, but you got to watch all the vlogs. Like, you got to watch the Being the Elite. You got to watch Sammy's vlog, Evil Uno's vlog. I refuse to watch Ethan Page's vlog because I do not get all ego Ethan Page. I do not understand it. One, I the fact that he's saddled with Scorpio Sky, I think saddle is anyway. So, welcome to AEW Talk with Darryl and Brian. So, all right. So this week we've got a couple news bites we're going to bump through real quick. We are going to review the Netflix original film Red Notice. And then we have we've already taped the last part of the show with a special guest to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's really long, so we're definitely going to tack it on the end of the episode. But it was fun. It's a great talk. Our buddy Carlo, friend of the show, good friend of mine, he's a member of the Real Ghostbusters of Ohio, so he's all in on that Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's cool. I've seen his proton pack. It's awesome. It makes the sound. Turn it on. I can't even make the sound, but it is great. It's super fun and awesome. All right, so let's get going here. So Marvel stepped in it this week. Well, I guess they didn't step in it this week. They stepped in it
a few years ago.
In 2014, technically. So this comes from Pirates and Princesses, which I take with a grain of salt most of the time with their rumors. Mm-hmm. I like Neon and Geeky Sparkles with the they're from Clownfish TV, but they do the Pirates and Princesses website as well. And so did Marvel get Ironheart name from an Iron Man porn parody is the title of this article. And I love this. You read that right. It seems like there was an Iron Man porn parody with a female character in a female Iron Man costume called Ironheart. The film predates Marvel's Ironheart comic by a couple years. Here's the funny thing is Ironheart, they did not trademark that name until 2017. And I think the character came out in 2016.
Yes. So
that was a dangerous game. So Riri Williams is an awful character. We've talked about this before. There's an Ironheart Disney Plus series coming out, which nobody asked for. Nobody wants. Nobody wants that comic. Nobody reads that comic. But I think either CC Cebulski or Joe Quesada, they need to clear their browser history. So because even so if you go to the article, because there's a costume and the costume looks strangely similar to the Riri Williams version in a lot of ways. I mean, it's just sad, really. But I think it's indicative of current MCU.
100%.
I don't think anything they're doing is original.
Because it's not.
I think everything they do is a virtue signal. And I think the fact that they announced that whole slate of things we talked about last week and their stock price dropped, has not rebounded to where it was. If it has rebounded, it's dipped again. And it's just... the MCU's dead. I do. I think that the goodwill of the people yes, the MCU and just unwavering support of the MCU is dead. Because I know a whole bunch of people who just flat out skipped the Eternals. A couple people like when I was like have asked if I watched Shang-Chi, and I'm like, no. They're like, well, it's on Disney Plus. I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I could have pirated it months ago, and I didn't even care about that.
So I actually did go. When we talk about the other thing, I did go see Shang-Chi in the theaters.
Yeah,
but when you say it's dead, I think people use that term way too often just because something they don't like. However, in this respect, I wouldn't say it's dead. I'd say it's on life support. Because who would have thought up until now, 2021, the best MCU movie, specific MCU movie, I'm not necessarily counting Venom 2, is Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I mean,
Black Widow was embarrassing.
Black Widow was embarrassing, but it had some parts that I liked.
Right. But I mean, I'm saying it was embarrassing for ScarJo, one. And it was embarrassing because it was a movie that should have been made years ago.
Should have been made after
didn't need to be
Winter
made,
Soldier.
Absolutely. When she first went on the run. Mm-hmm. It did not need to be made again. And then the other thing is, they had a character who was the SHIELD agent in that who was helping her was obviously Taskmaster. And they went and they made it CGI head on a Taskmaster body. And that was just dumb. It was dumb because it was obviously a guy in the suit the whole time. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, anyway. and then again, Eternals was awful.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
You know how I'll say.
But you went to see it.
I will hedge things like saying, no, look, I didn't like it, but Eternals was awful. It was terrible. Like, as bad as I dislike, again, Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World actually has moments in it, especially between Thor and Loki, that are actually good theater. This movie was, first of all, it was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
It was just awful. And it's more indicative of what the MCU and what Marvel in general, when we're, getting back to this, and the lack of creativity in Marvel properties as a whole.
I mean, they're copying off of everything right now, where before, like, everybody's copying off of them. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I thought it was something that was well worth pointing out. And yeah. All right. So the next thing up is...
Speaking of Marvel.
I mean, we're just talking about Marvel right now. All of our news bites are Marvel-centric. So the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer... I guess second official, like, full-length trailer came out. It's not awful. I mean, it's a decent trailer. There's lots of
man, that screen looks great.
The computer screen? Yeah.
The monitor.
It's 5K, brother.
5K.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm really hoping he ends up in the Venomverse after this, especially after going to see Afterlife and having the Morbius trailer up on the RPX screen. Like, I think this version of Spider-Man getting away from being Iron Boy works better.
Yeah. So. And this is I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people do. He's one of those just for certain reasons, but
he's actually very divisive.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Because
he's just just this kid.
Yeah, and I think they're projecting their distaste on how some aspects of the character is handled to him, because there's nothing he's done to deserve that. I will admit, to your point, as much as I love him in the MCU, the disservice they've done in the movies not allowing him to stand on his own.
Yeah.
Even though he usually stands on his own at the end of the movie, he has too much help during the movie.
Yeah.
I want a movie where he's on his own.
Yes.
And
I think the only way to do that is get away from
I think
MCU.
that could be the case.
But the whole Mary Jane or MJ, and Doctor Strange interaction here with she's like, you have to say please. He should have turned her into a frog. Or something. Turn her into a cockroach and step on her and then bring her back and be like, how's that for please? I don't know. Like, bringing Jamie Foxx back is weird. Because one, the version of Electro that he plays in this looks infinitely cooler than what we saw in the Andrew Garfield ones.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm hoping this is a different version of that Electro. It feels like Doc Ock might have like a crush on Peter Parker. Like, he's like, oh, well, Tom Holland, Peter Parker, you're like super cute. Let's, he's like grooming him or something. It's very weird. But yeah, I think, I don't know. Did you get the feeling that those Doc Ock arms look a little more like Stark Tech?
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
So,
I'm wondering if they're having the Ned Goblin.
Well, I don't think you can have the kid that plays Ned play that Hobgoblin because it looked like Harry. It looked like James Franco, but I think James Franco is kind of persona non grata, so I don't know. But this scene where MJ is falling in the trailer, it looks like it's Tom Holland, Peter Parker, but when she starts to fall, she's next to Ned.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's Andrew Garfield who saves her there. And maybe that's when we get the introduction to Spider-Field.
That would be a very interesting save because of him losing
because he doesn't
Gwen Stacy.
Because he's learned his lesson not to just like. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think I told you I think this is going to be a sacrificial lamb for some fans because of the Eternals. I think we were talking about this during when you guys listened to the Ghostbusters review. We already kind of talked a little bit. But I think if this movie makes $800 million, that's going to be a success for this. I do not think this is going to be $1 billion movie. I do not necessarily think this is going to be a super well received movie.
I don't think so either. I'm still on the fence about it in the sense of how good it's going to be. I've been very entertained with the Spider-Man in the MCU. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, despite what other people. Personally, I like him.
I like him as Spider-Man.
I like him.
I think he's struck the best balance of both characters. I think he gets the self-deprecation better than anybody, and I think he gets the physicality of the character better than anybody. But then, I do think his Peter is a little more happy-go-lucky than Peter Parker should be because like Peter Parker is a sad sack, and I think that's kind of where Andrew Garfield really kind of nailed it a little bit, and I think Toby just was not ever able to take himself. He takes himself too seriously to let that happen.
Right. So with this, this is going to be huge as far as what happens in 2022 for the MCU because you're absolutely right. The stink of the Eternals is really going to affect some people's perceptions of this movie.
I almost feel like and I said this about Solo when it came out so close to The Last Jedi. This movie should probably be pushed back a little bit because I mean they pushed everything else back. They should have probably pushed this back to March or May to get further away from the Stinkturnals than what this is because I mean the Eternals is gonna like after the quarterly earnings report, Shang-Chi or Black Widow or both lost money because that division lost $65 million. And there wasn't a lot of stuff that came out to make up for that. And then, the Eternals is on track to lose $100 million.
Yeah.
So at least.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I don't want this movie to be the Solo of the MCU where people are just like, I was just burned by the Eternals, so I'm not going to go see it. And anyone who says they like the Eternals, to be honest, I do not trust their review. I do not trust their take on it because all they talk about is they like it because it had diversity. Yeah. And they don't ever mention like, oh, I liked it because this part of the story.
Yeah. So you know me, we talk about.
I do know you. You only go to see movies because they're diverse.
Absolutely. But in the sense of there are movies where, like I said, I can see why somebody likes this movie. I can see why somebody doesn't like this. Again, I know there are people that like the Eternals they just like it, and I'm not talking about those who are virtue signaling with the diversity. For me, there is very little there are very few redeeming qualities about that movie.
I think when normies are turning on it, that's when you know it's objectively bad.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't seen it, so I'm not saying if it's bad or not.
I'm saying it's bad.
Because I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
All I have is your take and the pitch median Screen Rant,
which is very accurate.
Which, again, I feel like having watched that, it's like I definitely don't want to see this movie. I mean, the same thing with Shang-Chi, but I don't know.
Shang-Chi at least has...
It's free to watch now. It's in 4K, so I might watch it.
This is the thing.
So.
Shang-Chi, despite its serious issues, it was fun. It had a lot of fun.
I mean, I'm a sucker for martial arts movies anyway, so, I mean, if it's got some good kung fu fighting...
Oh, it does. It absolutely does.
Or if we learned anything from Paper Tigers, kung fu. If it's got good... Do they call it kung fu, or do they call it kung fu in Shang-Chi?
I don't remember, honestly.
I do, but yeah. So, I don't know. This trailer looks fine. It does not... I told you, because you asked about media blackout. This movie has got to earn my dollar. So I'm going to be watching everything that comes out, everything that's said. Like, I'll probably even read some spoilers to find out if I really want to go see this or not.
Yeah.
Because to quote Padme, or paraphrase, MCU, you're breaking my heart. So,
honestly,
or to paraphrase everyone, you are the chosen one.
With spoilers, I don't really care anymore with some of these movies. Until they get back into my good graces, I really don't care as far as spoilers.
100%. All right, so the last news bite before we get to Red Notice is that was weird.
Speaking of Spider-Man, so Tom Holland, who, for all intents and purposes, is just a dumb kid, right? We talk about these actors just mainly being husks. Tom Holland is definitely one of these people who he seems like a very nice young man. Like, I don't think he's going around and doing some of the traditional, just like Hollywood nonsense. He stays off of social media and just kind of keeps to himself. All intents and purposes, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe not his movies, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's a good guy. Was asked what's best for Spider-Man, and he's suggesting a Miles Morales film. Whereas Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal notes she has no interest in doing Spider-Man without Tom Holland. I've talked to him about doing like 100 more. And then, however, Holland suggested they move to Miles Morales, saying maybe it's time for me to move on. Maybe what's best for Spider-Man is a Miles Morales film. I have to take Peter into account as well because he's an important part of my life, Holland said. He then added, if I'm playing Spider-Man after I'm 30, I've done something wrong. I disagree. Absolutely disagree.
Because the adult Peter Parker stories are infinitely more interesting than the high school Peter Parker stories.
Yes.
Now, the Miles thing. No, we do not need a live action Miles Morales movie. One, the Miles Morales in the cartoon only paid attention to one side of his heritage. The Miles Morales comic book currently only pays attention to one side of his heritage, that is not how the character started out. He was a very balanced character between his Latino and his black side. Also, if you look, and we talked about this last week, if you look at what Marvel Comics has done to the character, you want them to keep, if you are a fan of Miles Morales, you want to keep him as far away from live action MCU as possible. You want him in the hands of Sony in their animated universe where he kicks all sorts of ass. He's not compared to Tom Holland. He's not compared to
Tobey
Maguire. He's not compared to Andrew Garfield because, believe it or not, he is not a household name. People are going to be like, why are you tokenizing my Spider-Man with a black Spider-Man? Which I've told you before, I do not necessarily feel like he is a tokenized character. There are aspects of it, yes. The current iteration of him in MCU or in Marvel Comics, he is 100% a tokenized version of Peter Parker because they're rehashing old Peter Parker stories now.
Yeah.
He's even dating Gwen Stacy. So, again, like, why? Like, I mean, because they're doing the same thing with her. She's a tokenized version of Spider-Man now. Whereas, like, Mayday Parker, like, she was Peter's daughter from another, like, you know, multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Great character. Mayday is awesome. Actually, one of my drives is named Mayday. So, because, you know, everything on this computer is named after Peter Parker or a Spider-Man character. Actually, when I used to have multiple laptops, one was called Peter Parker, one was called Ben Reilly, and one was called Kane Parker. And then the drives were like Mayday and, you know, Silk and, you know,
hilarious.
The different, like, girl derivatives. Spider-Woman, Jessica Cruz. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Brain fart. But yeah, no, they do not need to do a Miles Morales live action because, again, it's going to be one of those things where people are like, wait, why is this? Who is this character? Why are they doing this? Because, again, like we are steeped into this culture. We are steeped into comic books. We're steeped into superhero lore. To us, Miles Morales is a 10-year-old character that has been more missed than hit lately.
Mm-hmm.
To most people out there, Miles Morales is going to be a token version. And you saw how, like, normie people reacted to the whole idea that they're going to do a Black Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want that.
No
bueno.
Mm-mm.
No thank you. No gracias.
Speaking of Miles Morales,
right? I'm trying to give his Hispanic side some more love. I mean, they did the video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get the Miles Morales?
I did
Spider-Man?
not.
I don't know anyone who got it. I don't know anyone who talked about it. I did not see many reviews for it, but the Marvel Spider-Man that came out that preceded that got universal love.
Amazing game. And
I'm still at 40%.
Yeah. I'm 100%er on that one. The thing is about the whole Miles Morales is the original Ultimates version. Even though it took me a while to get there, I read that line and I loved it.
Yeah.
I haven't read anything recently. Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse. I loved how they had that both sides. Mm-hmm. They used both sides of it. You know how they went from speaking English to Spanish in the household.
Right.
The way the MCU is now, the way they're going, not the way they've been going, but the way the direction they're going, I have zero trust in them to do this character right. And all it would do would just, you know, once again, it would ruin Spider-Man's character because he would get pushed on the wayside. And then it would have just a generic Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and it wouldn't give any credence to the origins of the character and a character who has, you know, who comes from two different heritage.
Right.
They would not do that.
I mean, it's not even about the heritage, though. It's not. They're not going to get character right. They probably won't get his powers right. You know, they will make him a carbon clone of the current Spider-Man. Yes. And
that's why I think number one is I do not trust them one bit.
No, though it'll have to be some black creator, director, you know,
because
it'll only be black actors.
Because, you know, it used to be in Feige we trust. And again, some of my friends still say that. No, not anymore. Not for the last couple years and some of the stuff, the directions they've taken things.
Feige lost my trust with that A-Force scene in Endgame. Honestly, like that, it had zero. Like every female character in that movie was kicking all sorts of ass, and then they had to pull everybody away from what they were doing. Ho Van Dyne getting the time machine up and going, and to pose.
Yeah,
it was stupid.
Yeah, I laughed at that in the theaters with scorn.
I almost threw up.
Yeah, I laughed in scorn. Yeah,
but I definitely almost threw up in my mouth.
If it was J.J. Abrams, you would have thrown up.
If it was J.J. Abrams, I might have walked out. So, but anyway, no. I mean, here's the thing: Tom Holland is just a dumb kid. Tom Holland is a kid who they do not give the full script to because he can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Right. Plain and simple. Tom Holland is, when we talk about those husks of people, he is a well-meaning husk of an actor.
And I also think he's like, I'm, you know, to paraphrase Marshawn Lynch, I'm just saying this so I don't get canceled.
I'm not saying any of this so I don't give a shit.
No, I'm talking about Tom Holland.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So I think I agree with you. I think he's saying that a little bit because he feels like he needs to. He needs the virtue signal.
And that anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Sad. I mean,
yeah.
So like the way they handled Zendaya's character. Her name is MJ. She is not Mary Jane Watson. She is just an MJ.
Yeah, and that's just that is a nod.
That's fine. It's a nod to the character, but it's not the same character.
Right.
And, it's just not. Like, Ned is different than the Ned from
Gonky?
Ned Leeds.
Oh,
the actor? I don't even know his name.
No, I mean, I'm talking about the character, like Miles's friend, because that's what it kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, he is definitely Miles's buddy from the
Ultimates.
The Ultimates. But they just gave him Ned Leeds' backstory, which didn't make any sense because Ned Leeds ends up being one of his early villains that or early version of the Hobgoblin. Yeah. That because he knows who Peter is even more deadly, and so I don't know. I mean, seeing this version of this actor in particular playing Hobgoblin doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I think he has alopecia. Because he's normally bald, and I think the Ned wig, But I mean, I like him. I mean,
I actually like the guy.
I think he's a welcome addition to the Tom Holland Spider-Verse, but
even though he did drop the Death Star, the Lego Death Star.
I thought that was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
So, that just showed how much of a reaction he had there. So, anyway. All right. Our last bit of business here. Red Notice from Netflix. If you don't know, in a world of international crime, an Interpol agent attempts to hunt down and capture the world's most wanted art thief. This stars Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot, Chris Diamantopoulos from Silicon Valley, and the Dwayne the Rock Johnson guy.
The Dwayne the Rock Johnson guy.
Yeah, Rock the Dwayne Johnson, as the guys from Wrestle Talk call him. Anyway, this movie. Okay, one. I told you, it is just a mashup of every Rock movie and every Ryan Reynolds movie thrown into one with Gal Gadot for the eye candy.
Yes.
Does that? So, all right. So out of 10 unhatched counted eggs. So I like doing the rating first, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, what do you give it?
That's a tough one. I'm going with a 6.5. And I'm all about the sixes recently in movies.
Have been. You're like the mark of the beast on you or something with all these
But I said
sixes.
a 6.5 though.
I mean, 6.5 is still the 666. Anyway, I go a solid 5. Mm-hmm. I think the degree of difficulty for this movie is a 2. I think this is easy to do. It's a heist. It's a whodunit.
It's a buddy cop in a way.
Buddy cop. It's it's Gal Gadot looking sexy, but. It's Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, but not going full Ryan Reynolds, which is important. It's a very important distinction.
What did he have?
Gravitas.
No.
Penultimate.
Your word.
Oh, blasphemy.
No.
Oh, restraint. Yeah. Well, I don't think he had restraint. I think it was the fact that Rawson Marshall Thurber, who wrote and directed this, had the restraint to keep him in line, because he also directed and wrote Dodgeball, a true underdog story.
Really?
The We're the Millers, which is fantastic.
That's I like that
it's
movie.
It's a highly underrated comedy. He also did Central Intelligence, which is the funniest Rock Kevin Hart pairing. Mm-hmm. He did Skyscraper. No, thank you. He's doing The Division.
Oh, he did I like Skyscraper. Enough.
So, and apparently he acted in Easy A. So
he's doing The Division based on the game.
Yes, I believe that's what it is. So
I don't know if he
based on the Tom Clancy game.
Just by looking at his resume, I don't know if he's the one for that.
I don't know. I mean, like his CIA work in Central Intelligence, like that action. Mm-hmm. Is pretty good. So.
No, it's not necessarily the action; it's the tone of the movie.
He got the government stuff down. I'd be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But
I don't know.
But because he think of Dodgeball and the performance he got out of Ben Stiller in something that with White Goodman that could have been so much more over the top. That just was this great little slice of douchebag, you know? And so, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say,
Thurber.
I don't think...
Thurber.
Okay. I don't think I've seen Gal Gadot have more fun acting in a movie than she was in this.
The smile that she has as the bishop when she's smiling is like, where has this been? Like, obviously, like, it just goes to show how hard the Justice League set was with Joss Whedon around, or the Justice League, let me rephrase, that everybody got stinkhold there. But so this is great. This movie, like, isn't great. It's good. It's fun. It's
and
a
spoilers,
Netflix
by the
movie.
way.
Oh yeah, spoilers. This is a $200 million budget. So we were just talking where you're gonna hear us talk about Ghostbusters. We were just talking about it. Ghostbusters is a $75 million movie. Looks infinitely better than this.
Far better.
There's a lot of green screen here. Unfortunately, The Rock is just The Rock. Like, his character in this is no different than his character in Ballers, who is no different than his character in The Rundown, who is no different than
The Rock. Rocky
Maivia in WWE. The twist is fun.
I thought that
it was not it was not a surprise. It was more of a matter of when is it going to come out that this is the case, versus does this come out?
So, well, this is the thing about the twist is it may some of the stuff that everything makes more sense with the twist. Honestly, if there was no twist, then there were stuff that I wouldn't have liked it as much. Yeah. So in retrospect, watching that twist play out, and then going back, and how they do and then again, this is with a lot of heist movies and other stuff where they go back and show you what happened.
This is a fun heist movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The twist was either going to be him and Gal Gadot are working together, or him and the Interpol agent are actually the bad guys, and they're trying to screw over Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds. But no, I mean, this movie has a prison break. It's got a little like Indiana Jones-esque action sequence. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if Ryan Reynolds was doing his own like parkour stunts when he was running around, or who his stunt person was, but they were in the Bruce Lee term, like water, or like Sammy Guevara, the Spanish gods, Sammy Guevara. More AEW talk, damn it. But yeah, I literally deducted an entire point from this movie because The Rock. He just chews up scenes, and not in a good way, right? He's not bringing anybody up. He's not bringing anybody down either. So let's make sure we put that there. But it's just, what you're getting from him. And honestly, the only time he really has a fire in his belly when he's acting is when he's trying to show up Vin Diesel in Fast and Furious movies. Do you disagree?
I will, in this sense. I don't know. Did you ever see San Andreas?
I did not. That's got Carlo Gugino in it, though, right? So.
And Alexandra Daddario's their daughter.
Ooh. How did those two produce Alexandra Daddario?
But there's a scene in there where
did he like adopt her? Like, did he marry Carlo Gugino and then adopt her later?
No,
like,
Alexandra
Daddario's like dad died in like earthquake, and it's like, well,
but
he was my partner, but now I'm banging his wife.
But to my point is, in that movie, he has a scene where it's one of those where it shocks you just because it's The Rock, and I didn't expect him to be able to pull that type of emotional scene off.
Okay.
So, in that regard, but most of the time you're kind of right. So.
I mean, the scene I love the best with Ryan Reynolds and The Rock is the prison scene when they're in essentially Alcatraz in Siberia, and the way Ryan Reynolds plans to get out of there, I think, was great. And then especially when they go back and you look at the plans that were put forth from the bishop and John Hartley, to get out based on they did not know what Ryan Reynolds was going to do to get out of there. But I love how he kept trying to leave him behind.
Yeah.
That was great.
It's like, you said go. So. But I do love there. And again, you know what you're going to get with Ryan Reynolds and The Rock.
Absolutely. They
played off each other very well.
I think they had good chemistry. This was more Ryan Reynolds, the first Hitman's Bodyguard, than Ryan Reynolds in Undercover 6, or what was it called?
Six Underground.
6 Underground. Yeah. Which was just full Ryan Reynolds, which, was
full Ryan Reynolds paired with the most Michael Bay movie.
Which is, you kind of got to go full Ryan Reynolds there, but in Deadpool 2 when he goes full Ryan Reynolds, it's too much. Just pull it back. Grab that tiger by the tail. But yeah, so I really liked Chris Diathamopoulos, or however you say it, as Soto Voci, or however you say it. Did you ever watch Silicon Valley?
No.
So he's in the later seasons, and he's this billionaire tech entrepreneur, and he's got he's all about the 3 commas. Right, for a billion. He likes being in the 3 comma club. He gets there and he makes a tequila called Trace Commas. And then there's a point in the show where he loses a comma because his net worth goes under $1 billion to $999,999. And he's all dejected and out to get the guys because he lost money. And I don't know, it's funny. But he's done a lot. He's typically really good, but seeing him as the bad guy in his weird British accent was perfect. And then the fake tats they had on him were the most oh my God, this is what a villain should look like who strangles people to death.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any type of history of seeing him in movies or recognizing him, but I thought he did a fine job.
Yeah, he's done a ton of TV and stuff like that. And he's been around forever. Let's see. Oh, he's in the new Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So, he's done way more TV than he has movies. But, yeah. Oh, he was in the Batman Animal Instincts as Green Arrow.
Steve Trevor and...
the Justice Society World War II, yeah. But yeah, he's been at it since 2002, in Law and Order, things like that. But The Good Girls Revolt, he was in that show. He's done a ton of voice and things like that. If you see him, you recognize him. He's a one of those guys actors, and I don't know, I just like him. I always enjoy when he shows up in things. So, but yeah, the movie, honestly, I said, the CGI in this movie is not good because it's not, but the stuff when they're actually on location looks pretty good. But the end, when they're in South America, they're on a soundstage, and it's it just looks awful. When they end up in that lagoon at the end, near the end, and they're swimming out.
Oh, it's so bad.
One, it's so bad, and two, it was just it was so forced. Everything about that scene was forced. So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I stand by a 5 out of 10. I think it's fine if you want to kill an afternoon, or you're cleaning around the house. This is a perfect movie to put on.
Yeah, and one of our friends, he said it's the perfect turn your brain off movie. I think that's another one of those terms people use way too much. It's more along the lines of, you look at movies this way. Does it entertain me?
Yeah.
That's all you do. Yeah, it's not necessarily about does it entertain me? Can I have fun with this movie?
Do you want to escape the world for a little bit?
Yes.
This is pure escapism.
100%.
So, but yeah. All right.
All right.
Cool. All right. So we are going to shut up now. And when we're back, you're going to hear us talking with Carlo about Ghostbusters Afterlife. And yeah, thanks. All right, so here we are refilming. We're filming, Darryl.
Yeah, we are.
You're so beautiful. Anyway, we are recording out of order today. So this is the last segment of the show. We have a special guest. Sir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, sure. Carlo Seta friend of yours for a long time.
Dr. Carlo Seta.
Sure. Yeah. No, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we are obviously talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife here. Can you also tell the people why you are joining us for this particular segment?
I don't know. I might be the only card-carrying ghost head that you know.
You 100% are the only card-carrying Ghostbusters fan I know.
Yeah, so. And if people aren't familiar with the ghost head moniker, from a community perspective or the subculture, the fandom here, Trekkers, Trekkies, Ghost heads.
Yeah, I liken you guys to like the 501st, but for Ghostbusters.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like they really are. And or I guess actually you would be closer to the Rebel Legion than the 501st, just because like and this isn't a bash of the Rebel Legion at all. They're just not quite as exacting as the 501st. And I feel like some of the real Ghostbusters I've seen don't live up to your standard.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a high standard there. And you're right about that. I mean, really, to varying degrees. And we can really get into how I found myself into this, started as... very, very young. Ghostbusters was my favorite movie. I don't think I saw it in the theaters in '84. It might have been one of those, on VHS kind of deals.
We know about the VHS.
Yeah. And I mean, it just really carried through the popularity of not only that film, but being
cartoon.
Yes, absolutely.
Dude, the real Ghostbusters cartoon was awesome.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite Ghostbusters is the real Ghostbusters cartoon.
Well, I'd say
Keep talking.
Sure. Thanks. I'd say kids of our generation, I mean that was the exposure. It may have not have gotten
so just for context.
Sure.
We're all within 2 months of each other. So age-wise. So you're the old man with the October birthday.
I am the old man.
I'm the middle child with the 5th of December, and he's
the young
baby.
buck.
He's the baby with the 7th of December.
I'd rather go
So
with
cute.
young buck, based on your shirt too.
Dude. Anyway.
So, yeah.
But sorry, did not mean to interrupt.
No. Yeah, I mean, really, the real Ghostbusters popularized this intellectual property, to most. And that carried on for, into the late 90s, even. I kind of fell off around the extreme point in time. Even though it was, a really well done series. I've since watched it. But really what rekindled that flame, and this, had been attending Dragon Con for, over a decade. And, for those that aren't familiar with Dragon Con, it's the best convention.
You just like it for all the cosplay orgies. Like, don't lie.
I mean, it gets pretty crazy there. But, in the pantheon of San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, it's just very different.
Yeah. I think because one, it pretty much takes over downtown Atlanta.
Yes.
And you get to go from venue to venue to venue.
Yeah.
And when you're outside, it's just like you've entered another world.
Oh, the whole thing, you've entered it. Yeah, it's 5 interconnected hotels, and it's just, you can just feel it. It's really for fans by fans. Oh, yeah. But anyway,
everyone I know who goes to Dragon Con brings like 9 costume changes.
Yes, so. People go that.
And that's, I mean, I feel like it's the main cosplay convention over any other.
I'd agree with that, and that's where, what really, again, brought back into my mind, like, oh yeah, this film that I've loved for most of my life. There's a convention within the convention, Dragon Con, called PKE Surge. PKE Surge is kind of the reunion of the ghost heads. They're, you talked about the 501st and the Rebels, and Ghostbusters and the cosplaying or costuming community, prop builders and what have you. It's a little different because nobody's ever really portraying one of the core four. It's not I'm dressed up as race stance.
Right.
Like it's I am a part of a franchise that happens to be in the Midwest, and you are costumed as a Ghostbuster, but you are really yourself.
You're Dr. Carlo Seta, parabiologist.
Yes, I am a scientist. So, I mean, that really just brings us to this week, and been sitting on this one for a couple of years. I mean,
we have been talking. You have been talking to me about this movie since the first trailer came out.
I think I may have shown the very first teaser trailer in a UX meeting,
and I'll never forget when he found out I was a big nerd. He was like, "Oh, Ghostbusters." I'm like, I'm really not into Ghostbusters. And like, just the dejection on his face, he was so disappointed in me. He's like, I'm not mad.
I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. I mean, I like it fine. I told you, I haven't watched Ghostbusters 2 in like 20 years.
Well, and that's okay.
And I actually told him I was going to watch Ghostbusters 1 last night, but I decided to watch Rampage instead. AEW Rampage, not that shitty Rock Rampage movie.
There's that other Rampage movie too.
Well, I would watch that, but I'm afraid I'll get put on a list if I watch that one at least any more times than I've already watched it. So the Yui Bowl Rampage.
I mean, I'm familiar with Bowl.
It's as bad as you think.
Yeah.
Well, it has his name attached to
yes,
it.
it's violence porn.
It is 100% like active shooter porn.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And there's 3 of them that get progressively more.
Wasn't he the same one that did a Postal film, like Postal, based on it was 90s?
No,
era
I don't know if Yui Bowl did
FPS.
that, but I know what you're talking about.
I thought so.
But,
Anyway.
But
yes, I was very disappointed in Brian. I still am. I carry those wins. It's fine.
Who isn't disappointed in me? Let's be honest.
That's fair.
I live to disappoint. That's my whole goal in life, is to disappoint as many people as possible.
Yeah.
But no. So this movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, finished filming forever ago, at least 2 years.
Yeah.
What was the original release date?
November
2020.
2020,
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
Yeah. So it's been a whole year.
I mean, it was really like, I don't even know if it was November. In fact, I for whatever reason I have May in my mind. And yeah, we can do some research.
Yeah, I can try and find that. But anyway, yeah, it's March. It was originally July 10th, 2020. Sorry.
Okay, so
delayed then to March 5th, 2021. Ouch. And then finally came out in November of 2021. So year and a half.
Yeah, so you can imagine how that pained me. So
right.
It's like, okay, yeah, pandemic.
Well, here's the
big
thing.
Deal, but
is that like I still stand by, if they would have put some of these movies out during the pandemic and just left them in theaters for like 6 months, people would have gone to see them.
Sure.
Like, because it's like, okay, Ghostbusters is in this theater, what else? James Bond is in this theater. Like just do it that way. Like, be like, hey, AMC's gonna do this movie, Regal's gonna do this movie, Cinemark is gonna do this movie. And I think people would have gone because they could have been like, okay, the whole theater, so we can like distance and do whatever.
Sure.
I mean, we never stopped going to movies during any of it. So as long as the theater was open, we went.
Not a lot of content there.
No, there really wasn't. That was the problem.
That was the because I absolutely would have gone. And I know other people wouldn't have. But to your point, and again, if you want to say, hey, we're running on these restricted hours, but we're going to have this movie. Mm-hmm. I think it would. I have no doubt it would have helped movie theaters. Now, as a whole, yeah, is it going to have the same box office? Not necessarily, but I think movies wouldn't necessarily be in a spot that they are now.
I lost the habit.
Yeah, I have too.
We used to go to movies every week, not necessarily together, but we'd go every couple months to at least 2 movies together. And this is the first movie I've been to since.
Was it Venom?
Venom 2. Mm-hmm. So, and that was the first movie I've been to since whatever we saw together before Black Widow.
And I don't remember.
Oh no, Black Widow was the last one I saw in the theater before that. So
Yeah,
well,
same here.
You know my habit, so.
Oh yeah, you are. I'm gonna wait until it's on Netflix, been off Netflix, and back on Netflix again before I see it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Let it marinate a little bit.
But I'll be honest, like if Sony weren't Sony and they decided to do like the HBO Max route, I don't know that I would have seen it at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like I watched Dune at home. I mean, we've been over this, but like I watched Dune at home.
Same.
And I was gonna go see Dune in the theater.
With you.
And because I hated Dune so much, I was like, they've got my $16 for HBO this month.
Same.
Like, Darryl saw it on HBO Max too. So like,
and we both said the same. We're gonna go see it afterwards.
Yeah. No,
I was gonna make Haley go see it with me because she still owes me like a Father's Day present from last year, and like that was like lunch and a movie. And so I was going to make her sit through Dune because I'm evil. She hates Dune. She hates it. It's hilarious. But anyway, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes.
I do stand by, like, this is one of those movies that they should have just put out. I do not, and this is no offense.
No offense taken.
So Ghostbusters is not the cultural tentpole that it was even 15 years ago.
We can maybe debate that one.
I think the 2016 Ghostbusters movie killed a lot of momentum for that.
I think it was confusing.
Yeah.
I think it confused a lot of fans that were maybe familiar with Ghostbusters, and not that I have any way, shape, or form a problem with that structure of film, because this. I'm probably the only reader of the IDW. The Delgado and Schoening comic.
Well, because I got them for you. Or
you got me one.
But then it fell off. Oh yeah, the Transformers one.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. Those, I mean, I've read, I pick them up here and there. Typically, like if I like the cover.
And they're great. I don't know. I might be.
They're all right. They're not bad. But again, I'm not the fan.
I'm a target market of one, maybe there. But it really gets into that expanded universe. But still based on,
I still feel like if 2016 Ghostbusters hadn't been like, oh, we're just starting over, but with girls this time, had it been because it filmed in Boston, and they said, hey, this is a franchise, Ghostbusters Outpost that's in Boston, and and because Hamilton was so big at the time, made all of the Ghosts Revolutionary War related, people would have gone nuts for that, even with the horrible Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, Melissa McCartney, and Kristen Wiig.
Here's my ultimate take on that film.
And we will get to the current one.
Sure, eventually. Yeah, we'll try and not make this a 2-hour review.
Either way.
So going back to Ghostbusters, the original, '84. Primarily Saturday Night Live made famous cast, and then all the relationships that kind of go in that circle. Paul Feig did not understand the core of why this is a special franchise. He just didn't get it. And I believe in his mind it was like, okay, I'll put 4 amazing comedians from that
air quotes.
Yeah, well, amazing. Yeah, sure. So. We'll put 4 comedians. I won't predicate it.
Comedians.
We'll put
We'll put air quotes on comedians.
Stars of the SNL cast.
Was Melissa McCartney on SNL ever?
No, okay. But his relationship with her, going back to Bridesmaids,
which is the only thing I've ever found her funny in.
Sure. So trying to take the popularity of Bridesmaids and and then putting. Okay, Ghostbusters and SNL cast, and this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's a surefire hit.
Sure, but then it just completely went into madness.
Well, he forgot to write a good movie.
Yes, and he got overly defensive about everything around that, and for those that are familiar with the great Sony leak emails. Yeah. I mean, all of this was in that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's just a matter of a misunderstood, while maybe best of intended idea that just was not executed well.
Misunderstood. That is something we've talked about where it seems like over the past years, Hollywood and these writers and they just don't understand. We were just talking about Dune, and Denis Villeneuve said that this has been his thing since he was a kid, and yet the way he writes Lady Jessica makes me think he doesn't understand the character.
Yeah. The way he wrote the Fremen makes me think he never actually read Dune.
Yeah. And that's not even talking about the character stuff he left out. It's just, again, I've not read Dune 30 times or anything like that. But
I read it. I've read it every year since I was 13.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's my Bible.
So even
I try to get Scientology to switch to Dune instead of Dianetics.
Get L. Ron Hubbard on the phone.
No, down on the 4th, when they had the Scientology store down on 4th and Plum, I went in with Dune. I
recall you telling me that.
I won $50 and a free lunch for that. Anyway, but no, I mean, I just think. Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward to Afterlife. Mm-hmm. I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding there too with Jason Reitman.
Well,
I think he's living on his dad's name with this particular film.
I mean, here's another thing about Jason. And maybe the only salient point of Ghostbusters 2 that, I don't know, we probably won't even talk about GB2. Jason Reitman in that film. Mm-hmm. Party scene, Ray and Winston show up. They do the dance. Yep. The kid comes up, says, my dad thinks you're full of crap. That's Jason Reitman. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, the children of that series... I'm a firm believer that when I knew that Jason was attached to this, I got really excited. And Ivan had really been fighting to regain the rights to produce and be a part of the creative process, not just with Afterlife, but even with 2016. And it was just the studio really botched that job. So
the Fembusters.
Sure, and
studios botching jobs.
Right.
I mean, honestly, if studios just got out of the way of most of these films, they'd probably be great,
or at least better.
I mean, that's kind of.
I'm saying most films,
right.
So.
Green light it and let it go, and going back to the first, and what I was saying to you last night, why that's important is that film was shot, produced, edited, scored in 10 months.
Right.
So
but
you had time for studio involvement.
You had the cast there. That core cast was, SCTV, Saturday Night Live, mm-hmm. and then Ernie Hudson, who I think is a super underrated actor, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he gets nearly the credit for what he's done in his career.
Yeah, and when we start talking about Afterlife, I'm really, really pleased that they pronounced Ernie Hudson in the way that they did.
Well, one and two, he was Dr. Zedmore, because I think that got brushed under the rug a little bit in the first one. Well, he wasn't a doctor in the first one, the second one, right?
No.
See, for whatever reason, I thought he was a doctor. In
Winston has a very long, history to him. Yeah. Ex-Marine. Was supposed to be much more a part of the first. In fact, I think structurally the film works better in bringing the fourth member in, roughly once they've hit their stride. So it worked, mm-hmm. and he was pretty bummed about that. But going back to the fandom, Ernie he loves the fans. Oh, he comes out. I think he comes to every Horror Hound here.
Mm-hmm.
Every year.
He's here every year.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't.
When we say here, we're talking about in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's not in it for the paycheck. He's in it for this is a very special part of that man's life. So,
it's what really made him a household name.
Yeah,
or set him down the path to be a household.
Sure,
How about that?
And he's a classically trained actor. Yeah. It's anyway. But
all right, so we haven't talked enough about Afterlife. We started to, and we keep going back to Ghostbusters. So I'm okay. So real quick, out of what did I say here? 10 murdered Stay Puft Marshmallow babies. All right.
That's a good one.
I like coming up with a different fun out of 10.
That's a good one.
I like to do this at the beginning, right? So out of 10, what do you give
And he's pointing to me. Oh man, that's a tough one. I have seen it twice. If I can be perfectly objective, I'd give it a 7.
Okay. D?
I have it right around that 6 mark.
When I was walking out, I told you a 6. I'm sticking with that.
Sure.
I told you though, like the degree of difficulty for this one, I don't think was super high because of the disappointing nature of the 2016 film Filmbusters. I feel like this movie, the degree of difficulty for this was a 4 out of 10, like relatively easy.
Well, I gave you my 3-word review.
Well, and I told so okay, say it.
The Ghostbusters Awakens.
Yeah, and I looked at you and I said, "This is the Force Awakens," as you were telling me the Ghostbusters Awakens.
It absolutely is.
Okay, so that being said, so this starts with obviously Egon. Obviously, we don't see his face because Harold Ramis passed on. Living out somewhere, trying to capture something on his farm, and
spoilers, by the way.
Oh yeah, we're spoiling the shit out of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I always forget. I always do a spoiler, and then I'm like, oh yeah, spoilers. Anyway, so
Thanks
he goes.
for the permission, guys.
He goes to capture. He goes to capture something, and it ends up getting him.
Yeah. So filling in some blanks here, and we will do our best not to keep bouncing back and forth.
Have you listened to the podcast? That's all we do is bounce around.
Okay, good. So thank you for that permission.
It has to be streamed.
I mean, it really is a continuation of the first directly.
Yeah.
In many ways, it ignores the second. And there's really nothing there. So, we retread Gozer the Gozerian.
Mm-hmm.
The storyline based on Egon heads to Oklahoma to the town that Ivo Shandor built. Mm-hmm. So Ivo Shandor, by name in the first, there was kind of a mysticism about it, and it was like, okay, he's built basically an antenna to the gods. Through this mining corporation that he owned in Oklahoma. So anyway,
and also played by the grossly misused
J.K. Simmons.
J. Jonah Jameson.
University of Montana grad.
Match
by the
my
way, alum.
That's not my tempo. Did you ever watch Spotlight?
Mm-mm.
Whiplash.
Whiplash. Sorry, did you ever watch Whiplash?
No,
dude. That's your homework tonight.
Okay,
it's amazing.
All right,
he is. It's the movie that you watch and you think Miles Teller is going to be a fantastic actor, and then everything you see Miles Teller in after that, you're like, really? But what about what happened here?
I am familiar.
Anyway,
but yes. Yeah. Anyway, back to the synopsis. Yeah. So Egon. He abandons his friends and family, and he heads out to this town. And starts with him.
So how did you feel? This is for both. Mm-hmm. How did you feel about the fact that they set Egon up as a deadbeat dad from the beginning?
Oh man, that's a great question. I guess, and a tough one to answer. It's you kind of have to follow that thread. Mm-hmm. If you're to believe like the emotional weight of this family, and really this film is about two families, his family with the other three, and his literal family,
his Ghostbuster family and his blood family.
Right. So, he goes on a quest, and, he's like, else be damned. I'm trying to save the world. Yeah. So, he is set up as a deadbeat dad.
Like, how did you feel about that, though? Like, did you look at them and be like, oh my God, not another one of these movies where they're trying to deconstruct the hero?
I think I had enough trust in Jason, Ivan, and the rest of the team that this would not be a reality through the storytelling. Mm-hmm. I guess I didn't really put much thought into that. I'm not trying to make it a thing.
And, I'm usually on those things, but not really in this case. Yes, there were instances where it would have been easier for what was going on if he would have communicated, because he had the proof that, hey, there's some shit going on. I wasn't sure, again, from the start, just listen, because again, this is one of those movies where even though I gave it a 6, most of the characters I really didn't like. I really didn't connect with. And that might have colored a little bit of me looking at him that way, because it, like, even the, the mother who was his daughter, and her kids. I had a problem connecting with a lot of these characters, and that absolutely might have colored that might have limited me in the sense of looking at him like that, because if they were this you don't have to be a family that's has everything put together, but if they were more likable, I might have looked at him more in the deadbeat dad variety. But just because from the start of getting these characters, that first scene with the family, I was like, I don't like any of these people.
When you meet Phoebe at first, she's insufferable. And we'll get to that. So if you two hadn't been there, I might have been like, all right, I'm not dealing with this hero destruction bullshit. I don't want to, this is not what I'm here for. I'm here for a hero's tale with these flawed characters who do their best to do best. And I really got mad when it turned out that Janine and Egon did not have a family together. And when she's like, yeah, my name is Janine Melmans, and it's not like, hey, Mom. Right. I was like, fuck you. Well, I was so mad.
Yeah. That one had been built up for decades on decades on decades. But, I didn't personally believe that would be the case going back to the second film and her relationship with Louis Tully.
I get it, but I mean, at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. And then the fact that we never met who he had a family with, and there was no mention of her.
Yes, and honestly, that's one of the biggest gaps in the film for me. So, and why I'm putting it at a 7 when you're just like, oh, you're such a fanboy. It's like we're expecting a 10 out of 10.
I'm surprised you didn't go 8 or 9, to be honest. But I respect your opinion more that you went at a 7.
I'm a sane person. But
wait. Did you just say that with a straight face?
Yeah.
Wow.
Shocking. Yeah. That's usually what the crazy say, right?
The bolt is going to come right down through the ceiling and strike him dead.
But it's like going back to your question, setting up Egon as the deadbeat father. There's zero mention of the mom,
right,
at all.
And why is she not mad at her mom? And why does she have her dad's last name if she hates him and he was not involved with her life?
Yeah,
you would have thought she would have gone by the mom.
Such a plot hole, and I'm curious if that will be built upon in the inevitable follow-up for this.
I think so. This movie's got this movie had a $70 million budget, right?
Right.
So if it makes $40 million this weekend, it's on its way to a $200 million box office worldwide, which I think is probably what it has to get to. It probably has to get to 300 worldwide, honestly, to make its money back and guarantee a sequel. But that's just movie math. That being said, I think this movie is good enough that word of mouth will, if it doesn't do more than 45 this weekend, they shouldn't look at that as a bad thing,
right?
Because I think it'll probably have a 60 to 55% drop.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the state of the business. So. I'm personally a believer that it's going to be hard to top Infinity War ever. That, highest grossing film of all time.
Not anymore. Avatar got re-released.
Yeah.
And got
that's right. That's dumb.
But
anyway, amongst the two.
Yeah,
I don't know that we'll ever see another film to that degree.
We're never going to see another movie like Infinity War that was a culmination of 10 years of storytelling put together.
That's true, too.
Just like we're never going to get the disappointing second half of that movie like Endgame was.
Right.
So
anyway, gross box.
But
you're probably right. But here's my take on that. This franchise, this property, it'll be so bulletproof that maybe they won't continue this story.
Yeah.
But there will be something.
I feel like there's enough left in this story to continue.
I think so.
I think waiting 3 years is probably the right amount of time to wait for another one of these to come out, though, because it'll let what's her name, McKenna Grace age a little more. I mean, she's already got 2 years since they filmed this, but what is she, like 14, 15?
15.
Like, get her to be like 17, 18 years old. Mm-hmm. Bring her back. She was graduated like with multiple degrees at 18 from multiple colleges. She goes to work for Winston. And I think focus on her. Forget Finn Wolfhard. Like, he dies in a race car accident or something. Because, like, that kid, his best acting days are far behind him.
I don't think that they'll try and continue who they built up as.
Right. As the Ghostbusters.
As the 4 young Ghostbusters.
The ghost teams.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Podcast is definitely going to get hit by a bus because he's always walking down the middle of the street not paying attention to what he's doing.
He's a really fresh actor. I think this is his first job, by the way.
I had no issue with the actor.
Yeah.
I had the issue with the way the character was written.
Because you felt targeted?
No. I do not walk around with a mixer board with no battery.
Yeah, they're
trying to record things.
That's where he's like smacking his head. I'm like, by virtue of you asking me the question, is he carrying a battery with him? And I'm just like, Brian, really? You watch professional wrestling, like. Oh no! Yeah. It got really quiet in here.
So does Darryl.
I'm not saying we both did. Yeah, I told when I went to
professional wrestling is the purest form of entertainment there is.
Like it's funny when I went to Muay Thai the other day. I told my coach, I was like, So I was watching men's soap operas the other day.
Basically, your stories.
Yeah, it's my stories.
Yeah, it is.
But anyway, I won't call you.
No, please don't.
Maybe sometime.
I mean, it's fine if you want to go to war like that. I'm happy to go.
I won't do it on air. It's all good.
Yeah, there were a lot of on the nose moments in here that it was just cringeworthy, and there were a couple of them.
Bokeem Woodbine in this was grossly misused. Grossly misused. I love that guy. Ever since the big hit, when he learns about masturbation and he's just trying to strengthen his hand throughout the entire movie. He has a different apparatus to strengthen that grip, and like he's got all the different lotions he's trying to talk to Mark. And keep in mind that was Mark Wahlberg's first feature film, arguably his best. So, but no, I would have liked to seen more of him.
Yet you said this movie could be 30 to 40 minutes shorter.
Absolutely.
You could cut it down to 20 then.
Yeah.
It could have been 40 minutes. Could have been 40 minutes shorter.
I think you'd hook me in around the 15, 20 minute.
Yeah, I would say 20 minutes.
So the runtime was...
it's a little north of 2
It was 125 minutes, so 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If the runtime for this movie was 80 minutes, I think... That might have been like, okay, I need a little more.
80 minutes, dude. That's an animated film.
Yeah, hold on. Okay. I'm getting there. So, because I said 40 minutes at first, and I do kind of stand by that. So, but that's 80 minutes, right? 85 minutes. It's a little short. You're going to be like, okay, what was left on the cutting room floor that was important? Mm-hmm. I think the 90 to 100 minutes is where this movie would have shined and been really tight. There was all that stuff, like kind of in the middle beginning section when, they were first figuring out the like what's going on in town and Phoebe and podcast.
And to me, that's honestly the best part of this film.
No,
and I mean, you guys are pretty crystal clear in like your, the characters didn't hook you.
No,
and in that way, I can totally respect your perspective there.
And to me, because it felt like a retread of Ghostbusters 1.
Well, the latter half.
No, even the first half, like them going and learning about everything. That was
I don't know. I guess my lens on that one is, there's a whole lost mysticism of what happened as a result of the 84 films. Like, you know, and
I would have liked to see more of that, them looking more into the Ghostbusters than they did. But taking out some of that, like when they are trying to bust Munchies or whatever the thing
Muncher.
Metal Muncher. Yeah. Like that could have been way shorter. Like that whole thing could have been shorter.
I'm with you.
Like honestly, the earthquake stuff could have been a little bit shorter. Like I don't know. It's just, there was stuff that could have come out.
But I mean, again, that's the Jason Reitman in this. You
know, as far as the and I don't know if you were going to say this, but I understand why certain aspects were retreads of Ghostbusters, because you have, it's not just, you know, the Ghostbusters fans that, you know, have been fans forever. You're also trying to, for people who say, hey, this looks good, let me go check it out.
Right.
You do need a little bit, at least a little bit of a retread to kind of explain things. It's just how much is too much. And I think in this instance, there was a little bit much, and not necessarily going into the Ghostbusters per se, but, and again, I know this is with, I didn't like, for the most part, the character. Second half of the movie, actually, I thought they were fine. But the first half of the movie, they turned me off more than got me interested in them. And I think that's, for me, like the first 30 minutes for me were extremely, I didn't like the pacing of that first half of the movie.
When it got to busting, then it was like, this is fun. You know, never mind the fact that she just knew how to use the proton pack. Just intuitively.
You
know, okay.
So
hold on. She was able to put it together intuitively as well.
Well, she did have help from Egon there.
So, well, I get that. I get the ghost was helping.
At least I think that was a saving, because if she did that by herself, even though she was smart, again, we know that. If she would have done that by herself, that would have taken something away from things.
They went out of her way to tell us how smart she was from the beginning, and it was like, okay, we get it. Like, you know. And then the fact that what was Finn's character's name? Trevor was like borderline like mentally handicapped, you know, like he couldn't get out of his own way. And man, that kid, he was like a cute little kid on Stranger Things. That nose, it's just getting out of control. Like, you know, he is not a handsome young man. It's just like, wow. Dude, and you're losing your acting chops that you had as a kid. What's going on?
He might just be going through a phase, and
it's called puberty.
I don't know. Like, I think his ceiling is like Adrian Brody, like, so, which isn't bad, but like, you know,
that's fair,
right? But he's got like a very limited amount of like what he can do as an actor.
Yeah.
So,
and again, that's not. I mean, there's tons of actors.
I will agree with you. Like, I think McKenna Grace did well in this. I love Carrie Coon. Like,
Leftovers.
Leftovers, Fargo.
Yes.
The Fargo series, which she was way better than she was on The Leftovers, and she was amazing on The Leftovers.
Right.
Obviously, Galactic Treasure, Paul Rudd. Mm-hmm. So,
world's sexiest man.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll agree that the film is a slow start, right?
It's deliberate. I'll even say it's deliberately paced. So, because it's not boring.
No,
per se.
It's just that, you know, if the characters, if you latch onto them,
right?
Like, it's a fun ride in the first half. If not,
did you attach to the characters right away?
I don't know. Maybe that's just my bias, or just like my eyes are wide open. Like, you know,
I feel like you've been really objective.
Yeah. An example I would give, as far as where people, including Brian, has told me this movie is so boring. Arrival.
Oh, so boring.
Yeah. And I've had other people say that. That's actually one of my favorite sci-fi movies. But the difference is I connected with both characters, with Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams' character right away.
Right.
So that, you're absolutely right. If you don't have to even fully connect, but if you're like, I kind of like this character. If you get that, then those first 30 minutes is totally different. It's going to be a totally different aspect of how I look at it, just because I didn't care. I didn't care for the characters.
I think if you hop into the Spangler clan from the jump of getting evicted, because that was the other thing. I was like, really? Like, she's getting evicted? Like,
where's the mom?
Yeah, who's helping? Like, because then, like, when they talk about her ex-husband, like, I don't know. I feel like Dad's got a bad rap in this. and that always like kind of triggers me a little bit. So, but
what was I gonna say?
I will say this: $75 million budget,
small budget.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah,
it looks fantastic. At no point are you like, holy crap! They're looking at a green screen that they went back and post a year later and put in a carved wall of Gozer the Gozerian.
Right. Another criticism of mine of the 2016 films, like the effects.
Well, again, it was shot in Boston. It's really hard to make anything that's Boston look good.
Sure.
Especially the people and the architecture. No, 100% offense to Boston.
I knew he was going there.
So it's horrible. It is like, again, like when California falls into the ocean, hopefully there's a little residual that takes Boston with it.
But going back, anyway, you see, this is me and how I try and, reel it in. You would, while we're watching the film, you're like, the 2021 terror dog
that was
effect, and I think that's just the overwhelmingly, how well the 84 film has aged. Practical effects.
It was because it was a practical effect in 84 with the model and everything like that. And that is a lost art these days.
Yes, it is.
Because they rely on CG too much. And I think the latter part with the dogs, when they were back at the farmhouse, that was where they looked their best.
Sure.
Everywhere else, they looked like they were about 2 inches off the ground. And they had no shadows. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not. They didn't have shadows.
I'll check that out on the third viewing. But
so, but it's little things like that. But then the other thing too, like when they were going through the timeline wall, the 21, when it got to 2021, like it wasn't the same color. It wasn't the same font necessarily. It was close font, but it wasn't the same font. And it was like, and this is my superpower. It was like 5 pixels too low.
Yeah.
Like, that is misaligned and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And it's because we sit there and look at grids all day. So.
Well, not just that. It very much looked like somebody had used the, the auto.
Oh, the auto erase or the auto fill.
If you're familiar with Photoshop and it just anyway. So,
It just, that was the only thing. It's like, you know what? They kind of should have just left this movie in like 2020 or 2019. Like,
why
do you have to make it? Yeah. Because it just opened with 2019, like somewhere Oklahoma 2019.
Yeah, wow, and it kind of opens it up for a side joke. Are we over 2020 enough that we can joke about it?
See, that's the other thing too, right? Like that. See, I feel like they should, if it was 2021, they should have tied the pandemic into the whole into the world, like this is a sign that Gozer the Gozerian's coming. Like
I thought that would have been too on the nose.
The world elites are trying to bring Gozer forward. Like
that'd have been way too on the nose for me.
No,
a little bit.
I'm 100% kidding.
I know, but who's to say that somebody wouldn't have pitched that idea?
I'm sure somebody did. Let's be honest. So let's go back and CG masks onto this.
So
I saw a thing on Instagram the other day where it was one of those can you Photoshop my boyfriend out of this or whatever, and it was the woman's like, can you Photoshop masks onto this picture so it represents that we got married during the pandemic, and the guy put the Jim Carrey masks the mask on their faces, and it's like, you get what you ask for. So it's just stupid. Anyway, but
effects were great. Sound design was
the sound of the proton pack starting up.
Everybody loves it.
I need to make that one of the tones on my phone.
Yeah, and I'm a huge sound design guy, as Brian will tell you.
It's his favorite Oscar.
Yeah, I watch it all the time.
It's the only Oscar that matters to him is sound design.
Said no one ever. But anyway,
says you 70, because it's the only one you ever talk about.
I talk about effects, knucklehead. For $70 million.
75.
It looked great.
Yeah.
It absolutely looked great.
Considering the other thing we're going to talk about there that we've talked about at this point, because we're doing this out of order, Red Notice, which had a $200 million budget, this looked far and away better. And I think because it was shot on film, if I read the credits correctly, it was not digital. So,
well, and also bear in mind, through transpiring through a pandemic. That left a lot of time for those guys to really get in there and massage it.
Okay.
Yeah, but that cost extra money. Though. I mean,
it does, but I mean,
so was the original budget for this movie like 60, and they went and did like 15 million more, and
who knows?
Just cleanup?
Who knows?
So
I mean, it could just be a matter of like
I personally, I mean, this movie's been in the can for over a year.
It's been a while.
Like this movie's been done and ready to go. And we've talked about this. Like, we've talked about this, too. Mm-hmm. Just release it. Just release these movies. Get them out. Get people back in the habit of going to the theater. And now the theater is struggling because of their hesitancy to
I mean, we said that a long time ago. We said that last year that was going to happen.
This is why we're not going to see another $1 billion movie for 5 years. So, maybe 10.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how well No Way Home does. So...
I'm gonna guess 800. I'm gonna guess it does worse than Venom 2.
What is Venom 2 at?
You think it's at 800 right now? It's over 800 now. But
wow,
I think Spider-Man in the MCU is not Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I think even adding Spider-Toby and Spider-Garfield to this, it's not going to make up for what the Eternals have done to the MCU. But I do think this is a fresh restart to the Ghostbusters story though. I think especially after the end credit scenes and the way the movie ended, I would definitely go see a sequel.
Yeah.
Or not even a sequel, I'd just go see a continuation of the story. Let's put it that way.
And one thing that we haven't really discussed is this was a terrific love letter to Harold Ramis. Passed away 2014.
Yep.
That's where honestly, I couldn't have seen a better story if he were still with us.
Right, himself, yeah.
This was such an open door to be like, this is how we do it, because this film has been bounced around in various formats
20 years.
For ages. Yeah. They've been trying to make a third film. Bill never wanted to do it,
right.
And there just wasn't a script. There wasn't an idea. But with Harold Ramis's passing, it was like, this could be something really special. And
speaking of Bill, can we just for a sec? Peter Venkman is the professor emeritus at SUNY, which is one of the New York State colleges in marketing and advertising.
State University, New York. Yeah.
In marketing and advertising.
It's perfect.
It's absolutely perfect.
What'd you think of the mid-credit roll? Or the
I'm happy that was the mid-credit roll.
Mm-hmm.
I might have switched and made that the end credit roll, to be honest, and put Winston and Janine as the mid-credit.
That's more because I look at mid-credits usually as more a part of the story, and the post-credit, the final credit, is usually that fun thing.
I think that was like a fun little Easter egg, the Captain America PSAs.
Yeah, or or Peter talking to his mom, the guy, who hit you? This guy named Steve. His friend was huge.
He's from Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Steve from Brooklyn.
I guess what I appreciated about it, and when I went on opening night,
I like both of them. Yeah,
I thought it was really cool because we're going through the cast, the main cast, and it's special appearances, and it's Sigourney Weaver and even others in the auditorium when they were like, "Where was Sigourney?" And then it cuts over to I thought a really sweet moment between her, Sigourney Weaver and
it was
Bill
very
Murray.
sweet.
And if you could tell, she had a ring on her finger.
Yeah.
So
I think a fun thing would have been with Sigourney, and if they could have got Rick Moranis, right?
Oh man!
When they first, when Carrie and Paul first came back to being humans from being the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper dogs, had it go from Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis to Carrie Coon, Paul Rudd
in a flash,
just kind of whoop whoop, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
And a nice little hat tip to Rick Moranis, who is retired and a dad. And,
he might be coming back though.
He said that's been a rumor for a little while. He's talked about coming back, just to acting in general.
Yeah.
So because his kids are a little grown now, because his wife passed, and he stepped up and was like, I'm going to be the one to raise my kids. I think it's fantastic. It just makes me more of a fan of his.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that Reynolds and him? What, they're involved in some mobile some cell company?
Yeah.
Now.
So.
Ryan Reynolds is Canadian, right?
Yes.
Okay, that makes perfect sense now. You know, it's,
he drinks his Molson and eats his cheese curds and
aviation gin.
Right.
Yeah,
which was in Red Notice.
Yes.
Anyway, it's a very iconic bottle, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I thought this was. Oh, Jesus, we've been going for an hour. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Mm-hmm. It's a good movie. Go see it. My only thing is I'll negotiate down to 20 minutes too long. I think it's longer than it needs to be. Again, though, like you said, I think every movie is longer than it needs to be right now. Mm-hmm. We are missing the art of the 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
I will say for me, well, it depends on it really depends on the genre. Like horror movies, 90 minutes. Comedies, 90 minutes.
Dude, all the best horror movies are like 82 minutes long.
Like that 90-minute cutoff, or for those.
Yeah, that's
like,
the max.
Yeah, for those. Yeah. Animated movies are different, because there's 85 minutes. But it really depends. Like this is a movie that I think an hour and 45 minutes that's kind of like where I like. And I was telling him, like, I love long movies, but there has to be a reasoning behind the movie being 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Yeah. And 99% of the time isn't.
It's that Chris Nolan influence on, like, we just need to keep adding exposition and adding exposition and adding exposition.
And I was about to say, hang with the shot for longer than you need to.
And then and then eventually, like, you've added so much exposition, you've completely taken away from the story.
Well, that's Nolan for you. Yeah.
I mean, as is evident with how the Batman movies went.
But yes, I mean, I'm with you. 90 minutes, like I said to you, and trying to get you to watch the first film last night. It is the tightest 90 minutes. How long is the first? The first one's 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes. So, and it goes by so quick. You're like, oh my God, I feel fulfilled.
I really do want to watch it again.
It's funny. I was watching somebody reviewed this one, and they mentioned the original as talking about there are very few movies that are paced as well as the original Ghostbusters.
It is the tightest screenplay script that in film schools. I mean, they talk about this. Mm-hmm. It's the script. It's the movie about nothing.
Yeah, it's the Seinfeld of movies.
It's the Seinfeld of movies.
Or I guess Seinfeld is the Ghostbusters of TV shows. But
more accurately.
I think that modern cinema storytelling got in the way of making this a great movie. Just plain and simple.
Well, in the studio culture that we live in right now,
that's the modern filmmaking.
Oh,
like that's all under that umbrella. I think there's that. I do, like, I understand, like, the Paul Rudd. Like, I think I would have liked it better if Paul Rudd was her husband at the beginning and the dad, and he had the connection with Phoebe, and she had a connection with Trevor, instead of Trevor just being out on an island by himself and, like, apparently really good at working on cars. Mm-hmm. But, like, he never gets recognized for doing anything good. And instead of her being concerned about why she doesn't connect to Phoebe, and instead being happy that, like, you and your dad have this great relationship, and Paul Rudd could have been the exact same character, and they could have taken all of the summer school stuff out, and she still could have met Podcast when they moved to town, with him just randomly walking up to her on the corner, like, "Hey, you're new. Let me interview you."
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the whole summer school thing is built around, okay, let's introduce the whole seismic activity. Like, I mean, I
think you handle that when they get to the dirt farm, and that's all on the wall. And,
sure.
And he, since, like, Paul Rudd is a scientist, he's like, "Hey, what do you make of this?" Like, and, like, again, then showing us why she's so special, instead of just telling us and telling us and telling us, and, like,
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Once we hit the halfway mark in this one, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Oh yeah,
I'm just like,
100%.
Oh man, the cleanest Walmart in
well,
ever.
Right. Like, we were making fun of that. So we should have gone next door and taken some pictures to, like, compare and contrast.
But
fully stocked shelves.
Yeah. Nothing on the floor.
I do want to close on the mini Stay Puft guys.
Yes.
I did not hate that like I thought I was going to hate it. The fact that they were murdering each other left and right
and willfully
was
being
hilarious.
murdered.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I saw so much inspiration from Gremlins in that.
100%. Totally, 100%.
Yeah,
it's definitely a hat tip.
And funny enough, both GB1 and Gremlins opened up on the same day in 1984.
Oh,
so
same day.
Same day.
Wow.
I just want to know how they were able to drive the Roomba. Supernatural abilities.
Yeah.
Oh, the plot armor in this movie was super thick on a lot of characters.
That's why I give an honest review.
I'm happy no one died.
Egon died.
Well, he's
Spoilers.
I mean, but I mean, like, none of the other characters like really died. Bringing in the 3, like, they showed up at just the right time, just the right amount of swagger, and then just the right amount of I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, I thought they lingered on the CGI Ramus a little too long.
Just a little too.
Just a little bit.
And the 4 Herald, I told you, they blew that wad a little too early. It should have been right when it went to black. As the siren was going and the first few beats of Who You Gonna Call were landing, do 4 Herald and then Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
and
I mean that's typically how those things go, right?
Right, and I just felt like as he's fading away and says 4 Herald, it's like, okay, well now I know this movie's over. There's no like this is it, and you just took me out of this super emotional scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that felt rushed to me.
So.
Yeah, and honestly, you didn't really even need the wide shot of New York City and the Ecto-1 driving in.
Like, I liked it because you had the siren, and you had the because it wasn't long. It faded to black almost immediately.
Actually, I'll retract that because it was a good beat into and I was the theme.
Yeah,
and I was really glad that this one didn't start with that because I'm like, I think from a tempo perspective that would have been so weird.
I mean, this movie definitely starts out on more of a dour, somber note than that would have led to. So and I'm glad they didn't use it in the score really at all throughout.
Going back to, I mean, you're a sound guy, I'm a sound guy. Great score. And the original Elmer Bernstein, like, this was not, they didn't just replay it. It was, slight difference.
Yeah, I mean, the different themes for the characters were updated.
It was perfect. I've always loved this score.
The music to this added to everything that it did.
And I was not expecting the Buzzcocks to be in the soundtrack.
Get what you get.
I thought that was pretty sweet. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey, dude. Thanks for
having me.
Thanks for joining us as the real Ghostbuster.
We could go on and on and on.
Maybe we'll do a follow up if I go see it again. We'll get my second take viewing.
Sure.
So I'll bring Haley and we'll pull her in and get like the Zoomer's point of view.
Well, yeah, and it was awesome to see so many kids.
One of the little guys, as I was walking in, had a proton pack on, and that just made me laugh.
That's why I love the appeal.
It was like his jacket, but it was like a hard proton pack on the back.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I love it. It has generational appeal. But yeah, 100%. Anyway, Darryl, Brian, thanks for having me.
Where can people find you? I think your only Instagram account is Chewy's, right?
Basically, so. Yeah. If I'm not very discoverable.
Fair enough. We'll just leave you as a man of mystery.
Doctor, man of mystery.
International,
maybe.
Doctor, parabiologist. So
exactly. Well, again, thanks for having me. This has been a fun review.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Bye.
Yeah, bye.